I want to go to our second audience poll, which is, should college athletes be paid?
You know, I'm a big believer. Oh, go ahead. This would be interesting.
Oh, go ahead. You talk on it, please, while we're counting.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You have to define how you pay. You know, I believe in the collegiate model. My father was a student athlete in the 40s, my brother in the 60s. I was a student athlete in the 80s. My son is a student athlete now. So I spent 21 years in professional sports, and maybe it's the dad in me. I just want to make sure that our student athletes who are on our college campuses are afforded an opportunity to get a legitimate education, not just a diploma, not just a degree, but a legitimate education. But also, we're at an inflection point in college athletics where, with name, image, and likeness and other things, there needs to be some shift as far as how the approach has been handled and the impact of a scholarship and the NIL rights and all those different things. So I definitely believe that NIL is here. It's going to happen. I just don't want to have a patchwork of all these different states doing different things, because I think that'll create opportunities for maybe boorish behavior, bad behavior to occur. I also, the parent in me also wants to make sure that as we proceed forward with NIL rights, that is done in a very thoughtful and methodical manner, and that our student athletes and their families that we provide them with the resources to be educated of what it means. Because as we all know, money is a whole different language. And the thing I'm concerned about is the impact that it does to a team, or, how does it impact someone's tax status, or what can they do to make sure it benefits themselves and their families and not to create more issues. Because being 21 years in the NFL, I saw so many rookies who came in just with really just clear and transparent goals. But after the first 2 or 3 years, that the money got in the way of the sport. And I just want to make sure that doesn't interfere with college. And there's something that's special. And I know for me to be able to get an opportunity to earn an education and to be a student athlete and to learn and grow, and relationships I've developed that still some 40 years later are still there. I just think we need to be really thoughtful as we make these decisions, and not of the mindset that money solves all problems, but to be very thoughtful and methodical to make sure that we keep our student athletes at the number one on our list as far as decision making, whatever we decide to do.
Sarah, what do you hear in the world about that?
I'll keep it fairly brief, because I do think, like the poll said, this is a pretty meaty topic. I will say that as a Division I athlete myself, I'm representative of the people who get the experience that is most often used as the primary example, which is someone who benefited from getting to play a sport and get a great education all 4 years, with my sport not getting in the way of that education. I don't think that's always the case for the primarily Black athletes that dominate the revenue sports. And so we hold them up as the examples when we have this conversation against others who have a completely different experience. And so I think we do need to recognize the difference between the average student athlete who is fulfilling the amateur promise of decades ago, and the current revenue driving student athlete who is buoying the massive revenues that the NCAA and others are making off of their backs, with a outdated view of their own ability to profit from name, image, and likeness and otherwise. So it's pretty meaty, but it does feel like over the last couple of years, I keep saying this is a pivot point, and we haven't fully dived into anything magically different or new, even in those moments that felt like they were sure to move the needle. So yet to come, I guess, that massive sea change that we keep thinking is coming.